Hello and welcome. I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Talk Thursday. Today we have a special treat for you. We have a man who went off, found his own way, and through the years took and amplified so many ideas that more than at least 30% of what happens in your computer today came from this man's mind. He made it a reality. He's probably the most successful Filipino in Silicon Valley. We're with Dado Banatao. Thank you for joining us today on Rappler.
You're welcome.
Can I ask you about the news of the week? We have a huge IPO, the Facebook IPO, shares valued from $34 to $38 a share, making it the valuation of a company that's less than 8 years old, but about more than $100 billion US dollars. What's your thinking about numbers like this, and what a technology company, what a social media network like?
It's great. As long as they're in Silicon Valley, it's awesome for everyone there. It's great for the local, economy, and of course, overall economy. Plus, let's not forget the impact of that kind of technology that they have, or taking advantage of the media, that affects people's lives. It makes it, in one dimension, people very productive in sharing, in communicating, and so on. So they packaged it in a way where it's very easy for people to interact. And that by itself is a beautiful thing that they've done.
But $100 billion for a company that produces what, right?
Well, when it comes to share values, there's a lot of speculation there. But luckily, there are precedences like Google and
yes.
others. If you look at Apple on the hardware and software side,
yes.
They put on top of that the Facebook technology enabled by a lot of these clients, including our smartphones. There are references from a valuation point of view that they could be at that level of value, and so investors price it that way. In other words, it's not priced by Facebook. It is people who want to buy a piece of the company that dictates it. And of course, there are the banks who promote these kinds of values. In other words, investors get guided
yes.
Because it's a public market. The bankers, the research analysts of companies, they actually create valuation guidance, and then it's up to the investors to either follow it or stay out of it.
You've actually personally dealt with all of this. You've created companies. You sold a company for $430 million. I mean, from what you've seen in Facebook's valuation, is it a realistic valuation, or are we heading towards something that we've seen happen before, a bit of a tech bubble?
I think it's more real now. The problem with Web 1.0, where there were no reference points,
yes.
and there was just too much heating up in the marketplace. This is different again, as I said. There are references that we can use for these kinds of valuations. I think it is a lot more real than before. If you look at the value of Google,
yes.
it's way more than this initial pricing.
Yes.
So who knows how this happens after the shares are out there being traded. We'll see. It could, in the high end, it could match the value of Google.
It seems insane, though, when you get a company like Instagram, which has 13 employees, and it's bought by Facebook for $1 billion. And why, again, how does this work?
Well, I guess Zuckerberg fell in love with this thing, and I think he drove that.
So it's really the people who are looking to buy it that puts the...
Well, of course. I mean, the buyer gives a value, and simply because of emotion sometimes, you throw away logic in some cases about what it's really worth, but that person may have ideas that justify that valuation. If in this case, in fact, let's just say that Zuckerberg talked to his board and the board agreed with him to buy it, then that's what it is. Web 1.0 actually even surpassed that value. I sold a company with 18 people, and the product is not there yet for $1.3 billion. But that's when there was a bubble. I think this is slightly more realistic, although...
Wow, you were in a great part of the bubble, though. Sorry, this is more realistic. Why?
Well, because we've been tested in the past,
yes.
and while there are at least in Silicon Valley, there are a group of constituents there that says, this is a little bit more bubblier than what it should be. It's all opinion, frankly.
Yes, and I know you've been asked this a lot, but what makes you successful in Silicon Valley in an environment like this?
Oh, that's a good one, or question. It's many factors, of course. One is focus. I stick with what I know to try to minimize guessing. You know, I've been in semiconductors ever since I got out of graduate school, and I think I understand what it takes to design things in that area, both hardware and software. So you take away the uncertainty of the technology first. What is left is the uncertainty of the market. And there, everyone is equal. I like to say that the market is the best equalizer of all. What that means to me anyway is that everyone knows the market, but no one can really control it. Even the big guys can't control where a market wants to go. You know, case in point, Microsoft, they have largely missed this revolution.
Yes.
Well, they were part of it.
Yes.
But clearly, the startups like the Googles and others saw something and they went at it. So market is the market. However, you know, to really be successful, you still need to spend a lot of time understanding what we call the market needs, requirements. So that when you define a product, whether it's a hardware or software, there's a one-to-one correspondence between the features of a product to a specific market need. And if you combine all of those features, it should roughly approximate what users would like to see in a tool or in a device. And you probably hear this comment, which is the best comment when you really hit the market requirements. And that is, whoa, that's what I've been waiting for. And that is the best comment that an engineer or a product marketing person would like to hear once they put out their product. This is what I've been waiting for. That means either they guessed right or they did a lot of their homework, used that, and created what approximates what the market wants. So we spend a lot of time on understanding markets.
Yes.
Product marketing is actually a very difficult discipline, as hard as creating the technology. Why? Because if you look at the population, I mean, it's all over the place.
Yeah, yeah.
All over the place.
And especially now, since everything seems to be changing so fast. Technology is what you do. I mean, you came in the late 80s in the States up until today. What role has technology played in changing the global marketplace?
Oh, it's massive in my mind. There are three basic things that technology is starting from the basic circuits. And I always like to start there because of the complexity of some of these equipment and gadgets that we have. It starts with what defines the execution of things that we do in the application. And so basically the evolution of shrinking dimensions in semiconductors that affect the three basic things that we always watch out for and design for, and that is performance, price, and power consumption. You know, that smartphone you have, if those chips are not designed properly and they overheat, that's not a reliable accessory or product. So the trade-offs one makes in designing the complexity of those chips in a device like that is immense, and we spend hundreds of millions of dollars. So I would say that the foundation of all of this, while there are many layers, and on top of that, as I said earlier, is the application. It's so basic in its technology foundation that every time you look at a device and try to come up with something different or better or new, you start from the basic requirements.
And from there, I mean, you've also seen the products transform people and the society we live in. What are the big changes that you've seen while you've been in Silicon Valley?
The one, I would say, defining impact of all of these things that we've done in technology is productivity.
Yes.
I cannot imagine a world that has no PC. Can you do your PowerPoint or your spreadsheet? You can't do that by hand. And then if you look at games, were it not for cool graphics, and
Yes.
I did a little bit
Which
of work there.
wouldn't really exist the way it is without your work. The
Without a
graphics
couple-
interface that you did.
Yeah, without a couple of the things that I said, we need
You're
to
very
do it
modest.
this way. Well, it won't be an industry, and it's a huge industry all over the world. I know that the Philippines has contribution to that, a lot of creativity in games and so on. So if you look at that, it accelerated the evolution of very, very productive devices that we use today. We take it for granted. This voice that is faithfully transferred through the air,
Yes.
so that you can talk to your friend. That is massive R&D, massive amounts of billions of dollars to
Yes.
make that work. And rightfully so, there are a lot of very, very valuable companies who created those things because of that effect on our lives. But I look at it, I summarize it as the number one thing always is we are way more productive because of these things. And that's a good thing rather than just showing off that you have something like a jewelry. Well, that's an okay thing to do. It really doesn't make us more productive. It just makes us look good. So therefore now I'm biased on this thing because I am in the technology side.
Yes.
That's always our intention. Let's make this cheaper, faster, and for the masses.
How can the Philippines jump into this? I mean, for a country that, I remember coming here many years ago, covering the guy who did the love bug virus. Filipinos are so creative. Why are we not a bigger part of this movement?
Yeah, okay. A quick comment on that last
Sure,
bug. I'm
sure.
not proud of that, actually.
I'm not proud of it either, but it actually shows you a back end.
Yeah.
Even without the proper training, we seem to do things.
Yeah. The thing was
Yeah.
that some group, PhD students at Stanford looked at
Yes.
it and they actually decoded it in less than an hour. It's not that complex. Or in any case, viruses are just playing games basically. It's so easy to crash anything if you really just want to put it there. Now,
Which, by the way, just over the weekend, there were DDoS attacks against a lot of Philippine websites. We're still trying to figure out why. Anyways,
Okay.
sorry, so you're saying.
so let's rephrase your question again on
Filipinos.
the Philippines. Okay.
How can we jump in? I mean, you
Okay.
have a very vibrant IT community here. At least we seem to have a reputation for being developers, IT software developers.
On the software side,
Yeah, on the software side.
But we need to go back to foundations here. We cannot build a science and engineering culture without the foundation of experts in all kinds of engineering fields. The one thing that we need to be always mindful of is the fact that we need to reduce poverty through economic development. And it has been shown in many research done by different groups that technology is the root cause of how an economy can initiate its economic development that is sustainable and with some
Jump-started.
good growth. Yeah, jump-started.
Yeah.
Now, why do I say that? Because technology is valuable. Embedded in a product, those products are very valuable. Again, case in point, our PCs and laptops and smartphones. Smartphones, that's expensive if you
Yeah.
think about it. So what is in there? It's defined by the technology embedded in those products. And so we need the massive amount of engineers and scientists to create that foundation for us to even participate at some level in this global technology economy. What's nice is that the global market is integrated now.
Yes.
We know how to negotiate around that thing.
Yes.
And if you consider the size of the global market, it is infinitely bigger than our local economy. So for us to get out of this mode, we need to really tap the global markets. And you can only do that by competing in this field called technology-based products with a lot of good value. For example, when we buy a smartphone or a laptop, the owner of those products that innovated get easily at least 90% of the value of that. For every peso we pay for that thing, they get it. The labor to manufacture it gets anywhere from 5 to 8%. So you see the effect of technology, therefore.
Yes.
But to do that, we need this foundation of experts. So, in fact, this is the whole thesis of PhilDev.
Okay, tell me what you're doing to help jumpstart this.
This started even with the previous administration, but I'm just so happy that the current administration is working with us on some of these ideas.
Yes.
Of course, the government have their own initiatives and so on,
Yes.
but in a very focused segment in creating technologies and creating this base of experts, there is this program that we call ERDT, Engineering Research and Development for Technology. The current government, the current administration has continued to fund that. The idea is we need to produce a large amount of PhDs and masters in engineering. And so that has started, it's been going on for 5 years.
PhilDev is doing this.
PhilDev has been part of the group
That's putting
of academe and portions of the government to justify this. We are just, I would call, some sort of a catalyst.
Is this the super fund you'll be launching this week?
The super fund is an outgrowth of the requirement to
To
produce more, because we take the thesis that while the government clearly has to create an educational infrastructure, once you get to a higher level, to some degree that diminishes because it's sort of like an option. You know, the education requirements, more elementary, high schools, that's government, I think.
See.
And also private schools.
Yes.
But at the highest levels, it becomes sort of like an option. And so private industry and philanthropists will have to do their bit on helping out the government in doing this. For example, in the US, this statistic is not well known, but at UC Berkeley and other public institutions, top schools in engineering or universities, only about 10% is funded by state governments. The rest come from tuition fee, which is minimal for public schools. A lot of it comes from foundations and philanthropists. Now, I don't see a lot of that here, by the way, but it all should be looked at that way, that at some point in time, government has only so much capacity to continue to fund education at the highest levels. In our case, we've been lucky that the government saw to it. So it's like the spark, the initial spark that they're doing here, and let the community take over. Another possible source is, we have a lot of private schools.
Yes.
Good and marginal and what I call should go back to the drawing board, but they are profitable. But I don't see a lot of that profit being plowed back to faculty training and more research.
Can I ask
It becomes a business, therefore.
It does. But how would you gauge the state of IT, of our education and IT development here in the Philippines compared to the rest of the world? How do we compare?
In the context of technology development, we are way behind. And it's hard to estimate how far behind we are in terms of years. I don't want to say a number, but it is depressing. And maybe that's the best way to describe it for now.
And we
have a long way to go.
And the way to jumpstart that is to actually educate more Filipinos so that they can then create more products that will go in.
But in that education, we need to infuse knowledge from the outside immediately.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise, one worry that most of us have is this inbreeding or propagating mediocrity.
Yes.
Because if we are that good, we would have been out there already.
Correct.
Now, I'm talking fairly frank with you here.
Please.
It hurts for me to even say this, but it is true. I mean, I know because I practice in Silicon Valley, and
Yes.
I use that as a reference point. And it's not a good reference point because even if you compare what Silicon Valley is to Japan, to China, to Korea, and others, well, in a milder way of saying it, it's the same thing that I'm telling you about the state of technology in the Philippines.
When you say perpetuating mediocrity, can you explain that a little
Sure.
bit more?
We have roughly about 2,000 universities,
Yes.
and 10% of the teachers, roughly again 10%, have PhDs. One.
enough.
Number
Yeah.
two, unless we do research at that level, the state of the art stays right there. Unless you advance a technology to its next natural place, technology moves so fast
Yes.
that it is obsolete the day you stop doing more research on it.
Yes.
And this is even worse than the statistics on number of PhDs. Very few research, if any, going on.
I was going to ask, is there any?
There's some, again, using FieldDev
Yes.
and my family, we funded a research institute at UP. Just to kickstart it and show people that, this
It's
can be done
possible.
by private individuals.
Yes.
Hopefully, at some point in the future, people will do it. I'm hoping for that.
So the super fund that you're starting this weekend is with Shell. You're launching it this week, and what I saw is Shell is putting in 100 million pesos. What are you? A quick snapshot of it for anyone there looking for science and technology scholarships.
Yeah, the idea is to take the best and the brightest minds from high school.
Yes.
Give them scholarships to go to the best engineering schools in the country. Promote them, fund them, and let them go and move on to practice engineering and hopefully do more research, get PhDs and so on. But someone has to look out for those kids who have tendencies to be natural scientists and engineers.
Yes.
I like to, and this sounds bragging, but I would describe myself as I'm a natural engineer. I just love to create things.
Well, you also came. I mean, you were Dado was educated in Mapua, went on to become a pilot, and then went to get a Stanford PhD. So
No, master's.
Master's, sorry, a master's.
Yes.
And PhD, did you not? No, you created your.
I was in the program, but at the time I was there, I couldn't get my hands onto creating the chips because we didn't have a fab inside. A lot of the top schools in the US now have their own semiconductor fabrication, so their PhDs stay there, do their research. I had to go to the industry right away
I see.
because
So you jumped
I
in.
just couldn't design it in the university environment.
Yes.
I couldn't wait, basically. But so anyway, that's where we have to discover those kids out anywhere in the Philippines. We have a Department of Education science high schools now, besides the DOST Philippine science high schools. I think to be more scalable, we need to search for those natural mathematicians and science-oriented kids in high school and promote them, discover them, and then teach them, mentor them, and so on. So that's the purpose of our scholarship fund that is.
And you've gone up higher also. You just came back from Startup Weekend in Cebu,
Yes.
and you're coming back here again in October. You're trying to encourage entrepreneurs. And tell us, what work are you doing in the Philippines aside from what you're doing in Silicon Valley?
Well, FieldDev's thesis takes it all the way from this broad-based development of a lot of scientists and engineers, all the way to investing in entrepreneurs. Simply because if we generate a massive amount of those PhDs and masters, they cannot all go back to teach.
Yes.
Although I would like to really make a big dent in this number of PhD teachers in universities, and that's always there. But a lot of them should go to more research or the industry. Now, when they think about going to industry, assuming they have a little bit of experience from somewhere, whether it's a corporation or a company, or from research institutes, we need to then watch out for that, because there is the final process of affecting our economy.
Correct.
Now, what goes with entrepreneurs, of course, are the venture capitalists who are also taking as much risk as the entrepreneurs. And then from there, with the right insights on what the market needs are, using technology, we create companies. The weekend in Cebu was such that these kids were just full of energy, amazing. It was a 3-day event. They had their own ideas, and they created this upper layer of software where they can demo the seed ideas of their technology to create the company. And so we took it from there. There were 21 groups of mostly students and some people who are already in the industry. And then we screened 4 out of that. And the second day, we went into screening them again, much more time. And then we applied the way venture capitalists look at startups to fund. And that became fairly strict, and luckily no one cried, but no, these kids are amazing. I was pleasantly surprised as to how, I like to use the word, spunky.
I think the funny thing is the energy is there. It's whether the discipline and the focus will happen, and then whether there will be funding, mentoring that goes on to create the companies. Is this something that you're actively doing now?
I
engage?
Again, because of our work at Philipine, we just engage the whole, I would say, realm of economic requirement right away.
So going from growing PhDs to encouraging research, encouraging entrepreneurs and helping build companies.
And funding them,
And funding them.
Oh yeah. Oh. Well, that's a requirement.
That's the major.
They do need money to spend in developing products. Now, Cebu is a little bit one-dimensional because it's all software.
Yes.
Okay. At some point in time, we will take it to the hardware. It's a little bit more complex.
Yes. Yes.
But we will wait for a few more experts coming out of the system. But they will come.
And given what you've seen now, where is the Philippines today, and where would you like it to go? Where would you like it to go?
Well, the first step that I would like to see is that we could be a major force in the ASEAN group of countries. We are not making as much impact yet. Other countries are. But there are many metrics. One of them is the pool of research scientists and engineers. So we need to make a dent on that. But at some point in time, I would like to see us be a leader in technology, the creation of technology-based companies with products that can make an impact in the whole Asia region and maybe globally. Global markets is a little bit tougher than local markets.
Yes.
One idea we have is, in fact, let us flex our muscles first in our own local market. And it's what we call, let us disrupt some of these imports.
Absolutely.
We can use our own market to hone our skills in creating companies, creating products. Because we are a large population from a global market point of view, we participate in the global market, except that in technology-based products, it is a negative impact, meaning other countries take advantage of our purchasing power.
Exactly.
What we want to do is to stop that first by looking at our own demand and really create strong companies based on our own markets, and then from there begin to venture out and say, all right, we're going to go to that market now, other countries in Asia, and then eventually the rest of the world. If you look at other countries that are developed economically now, that's actually how they did it.
Yes.
Japan, Korea,
definitely. Singapore did the same thing with the chips. We're out of time, and I just want to ask you your last words of advice to someone like you before you left for the States, you know, when you were in Mapua, when you were a student in Mapua, to the Filipino students who are there looking for where to go? Words of advice.
Make sure that you study hard. Engineering and science is actually one of the toughest professions or subject matter to study. Just don't get to be casual about it. And if you are inclined naturally to like that, and this is one of my beliefs, if you like something and you put in the time, at some point in time you'll be an expert. It is just a matter of time.
10,000 hours.
Absolutely. So if you like it, my advice now to the students, if you like it, spend the time, focus on it, you will be good.
And as an entrepreneur, how do you build a company that's worth $1 billion?
Create products that are sold everywhere in the world. That's my own experience. The PC is all over. Phones are all over. We have companies supplying parts to the phone actually. So the value happens when of course, the usability that creates more revenue, more profits, and then you keep plowing back to more R&D, you can stop because technology moves fast.
Yes.
So you just keep doing that, and investors see that and say, that is a good company.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Dado Banata, we've been speaking with Dado Banata, who's been called the Filipino Bill Gates.
No, like to hear
he
that.
doesn't like that. The most successful Filipino in Silicon Valley. I'm Maria Ressa. Join us again on Talk Thursday.